Hello everyone, welcome to our webinar. My name is Andrew Townsend, I'm with eLearning Brothers. Today we're going to be talking about how to hack Storyline's HTML5 output. This webinar will be recorded, so you'll get a copy of it after we finish. We have James Kingsley, one of our custom developers, with us today. Would you like to say hello, James?
Hello everyone.
Thanks for joining us today. If you have any questions during the webinar, we'll be ready to answer questions in the questions panel. And if we can, we'll try to get those answered during the webinar live by James, so feel free to use the questions panel as you need it. We'll get to as many of these as we can. If you don't get to your question, we'll do our best to answer that question in the webinar recap or in some blogs to follow. Or you can reach out to us and at support@elearningbrothers.com, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that we can through that channel. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn the time over to you, James. Give me a moment, and I will make you the presenter.
Hey, so I'm James Kingsley, as you mentioned, and I've been in the e-learning field for, I don't know, 16 years now, I guess. And today, I just wanted to show you, kind of pull back the curtain a little bit and show you how I tinker around inside of Storyline to get things done in there, to really create custom Storyline solutions. Now, in the past, it was harder to do that because with the Flash output, you had to create two different solutions, one to hack the Flash output and the other to hack the HTML5 output, and so it was complicated, and you always had the Flash output there. But now, the new version of Storyline has a much better HTML5 output, and you can select to only use the HTML5 output. So that's really opening up some possibilities for us. Like I said, today I'm going to be showing you how to use this for Storyline, but really I use the same techniques and stuff for Captivate, Lectora, and all the other tools there. And I did want to point out that although some of today's examples might seem a little silly or frivolous, the idea is really just to show you the process of how I get in there and do things, and to inspire you to hopefully think of some ways that you could affect your course or hack your course to get things done inside the course there. So I'm going to jump in and start talking about some of the tools. Oh wait, before I do that, we have a couple of poll questions. So if you could please go ahead and launch those for me there. Let's go ahead and just do the first two there.
All right, here's the first one. What is your level of comfort with JavaScript? And the answers range between scared and I taught JavaScript to my mom. I'm watching these answers come in, and it looks like quite a few people are, looks like we're a lot heavier on the uncomfortable side. Let me go ahead and make these results public. I'm going to go ahead and close it. If you want to vote, you've got 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So here's those results.
The good news is that there's a lot of resources out there now to really help you jump in with JavaScript. There's a lot of places where you can learn it or practice it online, and there's also a lot of places where you can go and just read or post your problems and stuff. Since today we're focusing on Storyline, the articulate forums are really great. They really help you out there, and Stack Overflow is really awesome. And I'll show you a couple other resources as we get in there too.
Okay, and the next poll is, have you written or edited CSS before? This is a simple yes or no. I'll wait for some of the responses to come in. Looks like we've got a lot more people editing CSS than we've got people working on JavaScript. Okay, looks like we've got a good chunk of you voting. I'll give you 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. And we'll put those results up.
Yeah, that's really great to know, because that's what we're going to be using a lot to make changes to the Storyline player in there. A lot of the changes we'll make, we'll be doing it through the CSS. We'll use JavaScript to change the CSS styles and attributes of elements on the course, but essentially we're accessing it through that CSS. So that's awesome that you already have some level of comfort with that. So let me jump in and start talking about some of the tools that I'm using to get this done. So one of the first here is, see if I can get rid of this thing. There we go. One of the first that I'm using is called Sublime Text. And a lot of folks are using, different things, Notepad or Notepad++, that kind of thing. I like Sublime because it has a lot of plugins that you can use for it. And you can actually grab Sublime from there we go. From sublimetext.com. I'm on version 3, and they'll show you a couple of things in here to help you see the benefits of it. But one of the things I love about, like I said, is all the extensions and stuff you can do and the built-in power for it. So, for instance, I have an extension in there that highlights things that are not to standard in my code. So I can see right away that this tag in the CSS is highlighted and there's a little dot next to it. And so if I check that, it'll tell me down here at the bottom that there's 2 errors in there. The rule doesn't have all its properties in alphabetical order. Now, that's not going to break anything. That's just kind of a nice to know, and that's why it's yellow like that instead of red. If I actually break stuff, then we can see here now I have a red mark in there. So it's letting me know that there's something wrong there. It also helps me write things too. So if I just start a word, we can see that it's trying to help me out here. So I can say, oh, font, visibility, etc. to do that. It has an awesome built-in search that lets you search very quickly, not just this file, but all the files in a folder. So for instance, if I wanted to just check everything in a folder, so maybe I'm looking for something in particular, like I want to affect the, let's say the next button that's in the player. I can try to find that button by searching everything in there. And you see how quick that was. It searched 91 files really quick, and it found the word button a bunch of times in there. So I can see it highlighted each one. And if I want to go look at that, I can just double click on that, and it'll take me right to that area, to that file there. Now, also, as you can see, this is pretty ugly here. It's hard to read. I have up an example. This is actually the storyline player code here. This is what makes the player work inside the HTML5 publish of storyline. And as you can see, it's pretty ugly, hard to look at there. It's because it's minified and compressed. So they take out all the extra spaces, they take out the line breaks and everything, and they really pack it down in there. And that's just to make the code run faster, make it download to devices faster, a smaller footprint on there. As a side note, it also makes it harder for people like me to get in there and fiddle around with it. But Sublime has an awesome plugin, so I can hit Control-P, and that pulls up a list of all my plugins and stuff that I have there. And actually, I think it's Control-Shift-P is what I need. There we go, Control-Shift-P. And we can see this is the last thing I used. It's called HTML Prettify. And if I do that, then it's going to take a moment because that file is huge, like I said, and it turns it into this nice, beautiful-looking JavaScript file. And that's really going to help me drill down and try to find out what's going on. As I said, because they're trying to make the file as small as they can, they've done things like this is called function W. Storyline, or the good folks over at Articulate know what function W does. Unfortunately, it's not named very well for us to figure out what it does, so that's part of the fun, is digging through all this stuff and trying to figure out what it actually does inside of here. Hey, can we launch that other poll and let's see what editors everybody else is using?
Sure. What tool do you use to edit HTML or JavaScript? Go ahead and vote. Looks like it's a race between Notepad++ and Dreamweaver. More results are coming in. Quite a few others. Let us know in the questions panel what your others are. I'm curious to know what those are.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think Dreamweaver got kind of a bad rap for a while. It was seen as kind of like the not hardcore way of writing code, and so a lot of web developers moved away from Dreamweaver. But recently, I saw the latest version of Dreamweaver. I was helping somebody with a project, and it really was pretty cool. So I think maybe it's going to make a comeback. Dreamweaver.
So I'll go ahead and display those here, the results. As people are sending in what they use that would fall into the others, there's quite a few people saying that they're simply not editing HTML or JavaScript.
Oh, yeah.
There's also Expression Web, SharePoint Designer, Notepad, not Notepad++, Coffee Cup. There's a few of them.
Yeah, I might have to check some of those out. I'm always looking for a better one. I've used brackets some, but for some reason I just haven't. There's something off about it for me. I don't know what it is there. All right, so enough about Sublime. Let's start talking about how we can get in there into our course and start manipulating things and what other tools I'm using for that. So one of the primary tools that I'm using is really just the console built into Chrome. Now there is a console built into any modern browser. Usually it's F12, so I'm going to hit F12 now on the page, and this opens up this developer console on the side. Doesn't have to be on the side. I could move it to the bottom or to the other side, or I could pop it out into a whole other window there. And so, like I said, Internet Explorer, I think from 9 and up has a version. Maybe 8 had one too. And Safari and Firefox, they all have a developer console solution. It's F12 on Windows. I believe on Mac it's like Control-Shift-L or something like that. See, it's easy enough to find that and look it up. So with this console open, let's just take a moment and see what the different options are inside here. And I live inside this console quite a lot. So to start with, I have the console itself, and this is where you can start typing in JavaScript and just really affecting the page. So one of the most common, JavaScript things in the world is to say hello world. And so that's going to just pop up an alert that says hello world. And there we go. So that's an example. We'll look at some obviously much more complex examples in a few moments. Then I can also see the elements on the page. So this shows me the rendering of the page. So it's important to point out this isn't the source of the page. This is what we're looking at here. Because JavaScript or CSS and everything can be used to manipulate the elements that are on the screen to hide or show an image, to completely remove it, I mean, from the DOM, then that's the document object model, then that changes the actual elements that are displayed in here. Anyway, so that's what I was just trying to point out. This is different than looking at the source of the file, because this is showing me how it's being rendered right now. Now you notice that as I'm moving my mouse over these items, it's actually highlighting each one of those for me. That's pretty cool. So that way I can start tracking things down. And this is just a little simple page I put together. The other way that we can find an element in there is I can click this select element button, and now when I move my mouse around on here, I can see it starts highlighting things for me that way, elements, and if I select one, it actually jumps to it in the panel over here and shows me what it looks like there. Has all the styles that are associated with it on this side. So it's pretty cool. We'll be using that a lot. And then we have a sources tab. This shows me all the sources that got loaded with this page. So I can see that's the web page itself. These are the 2 images there. I'm loading jQuery from the jQuery CDN. Got some fonts from Google and other fonts from Google on there. We can see the network. Right now it's doesn't show anything because I had this closed when I first loaded the page, but I'll reload the page here, and this is kind of cool because it shows you the order that everything happened in there. So it loaded the HTML first, and then it started loading all these other elements in there. it's kind of nice to keep an eye on that, because you'd be surprised sometimes all the things that are getting loaded in there. For instance, I have a plugin for Chrome right now, and on every page it's loading that plugin there. So it can be interesting sometimes to see what people are loading on there. You'll see Facebook show up a lot in there because Facebook tracks everything.
Hey, James, can you show us how to access that panel again?
Sure. I'm doing it with F12. You can also get to it if you go to click the little dots button for the settings, and then there's more tools, developer tools. And then it says you can hit Control-Shift-I. Is that L? L? I guess that's Control. I don't know. There's actually the Chrome DevTools site shows different ways to get in there. So on a Mac, it's a Control-Shift or Command-Op. And like I said, most browsers have it. F12 is pretty much the standard for any browser to get in there. Then there's some other ones that we're not really going to look at today. There's the performance. You can monitor the memory. Here's where you can find your cookies and stuff that's on a web page. You can check the security of a website, stuff like that. One other that I'd like to point out is that there is a mobile preview here. So this will actually fake a mobile device in here so that we can see what it looks like on an iPhone 6 or an iPad. You can rotate the iPad, etc. You see my cursor becomes a little fingerprint thing, a little finger, so I can click and stuff. All right, so let's jump in and start affecting some things on here real quick. This is, like I said, a simpler page that I built so that we could illustrate some of the techniques first, and then we'll jump over to the actual storyline course so I can show that. So one of the first things I want to show you is we can, like I said, I'm going to select this element here. So that's got selected, and I have my console open at the bottom. On this side, I can actually just type in things to start making changes to that. So I'm going to click right there, and I'm going to set a style for this element. So let's start with text align. Now you can see as soon as I type the T, Chrome is trying to help me out here, and it's saying, hey, you're probably trying to do something that starts with a T. Here's all of your different options. So I can actually just select that one, and I'm going to say that I want to align that text. Again, Chrome's trying to help me out here, and it's saying, oh, where do you want to align it? How about to the center? There. Now we can see that on the page itself, it moved that for us. Now this isn't a permanent fix. If I refresh this page, we'll see that it goes back to just the way it was. We lost that element style over here. But this is a great way to start fiddling around with stuff before you actually write the code. That way you can check and see, you know, do I want it to be 10 pixels over or 12 pixels over? You don't have to keep refreshing your page all the time and stuff. The other thing you can do is you can turn off and change existing CSS styles in here. So right now, all my H1s have this font family in there. I can just uncheck that, and we can see it falls back to the default font on there. And when I check it again, the font changes back there. So that's how you can start making those changes within the console there. And then, like I said, we have the actual console on the bottom here, and I want to show you how we can start using jQuery to grab these things. So I have jQuery loaded on this page. By the way, if you haven't used jQuery yet, you're probably going to want to start to get to know it. I have a page up here for it. Oh, I forgot about this. Let me jump back over that in a second. So this is where you can grab and download jQuery. Most of you will probably never need to do that. Something like 96% of websites out there, or web applications, already have jQuery in them. The owners of those websites and applications are using jQuery already in there. So, and even if you wanted to use it in your own project, you don't have to go download it. You can just load it from the jQuery website into your project there. But jQuery is as it says on here, is just a library of JavaScript where they've written out all the lines of code necessary to, let's say, fade something in and out for you, or to get the value of an input. And the reason why you need all that stuff written out in a long form is because it's different for each browser, it's different for different situations and stuff. So this is cross-browser support. So they've already written all the code to get the value of something in Internet Explorer, in Chrome, in Safari, etc. So, and they've just written it into one function, so all you have to do is call that one function. You don't need to learn how to do all the other stuff. So it makes it nice because you can write a lot of code in just one line in there. There's lots of places to get help. This is the actual jQuery website. They have documentation on it, but I don't find it to be very user-friendly. I love w3schools.com, and they have great jQuery tutorials, and you can just get right in here and start finding out how to use jQuery. They have examples all throughout it, and you can even try stuff on their website. So you can edit this on this side and then test it on this side. It's really pretty cool. One other thing I forgot to mention before is if you're not using something like Sublime where you can prettify or beautify your JavaScript and HTML, there's a couple of websites that do this. I've been using JS Beautifier for some time now, and let me just show you the way it works real quick. So you can actually, remember I made this JavaScript look pretty there. If I go back to it and select all, I can paste it into this website. It's going to take a minute because that JavaScript to run the mobile player is actually really big. So it takes it a second to get pasted in there. I think I pasted. Oh, there it goes. Yeah. And so then if I beautify that on here, this really comes in handy when you're just trying to, like I said, learn what's inside the JavaScript of things. And or if you're writing HTML yourself, not even JavaScript, if you're just writing HTML or something, a lot of times you'll get a little sloppy in there, and it's just so much easier to read it when it's when the syntax and formatting is all beautiful and everything. So a lot of times my own work, I'll come and put it in a site like this, make it pretty, and then go put it back into my document there. All right, I got distracted because I forgot what I was talking about. So I was about to show you how we can use jQuery to start making some changes in here. So we made that change just a minute ago by editing the styles within the developer tool here. But let's start taking a look at how we can use jQuery. So this is a very simple jQuery selector. So what we're telling the JavaScript here is we're saying, hey, jQuery, the $ means jQuery. I want you to find every element in the page that is a paragraph element. So if I hit enter on that, well, it found one, because I do only have one paragraph element in my page there. And if I click on that, it'll start telling me information about that paragraph there. But if we wanted to do find other things, like we could find all the images that are in there, so that's going to give me 2 images that I found. We can start making changes to those. And normally I normally don't need to find like every paragraph tag that is on a slide. So normally you end up trying to search for something either by its class or by an ID. So let's see, I know that I have a couple of elements that are of the class logo. So if I hit that, it's going to show me that. So I'm looking back at my code. Both those images have the class logo on them. They also have individual IDs. So if I wanted to find something by its ID, instead of putting that dot in front of it, because the dot's for class, I would put a hashtag ELB logo, and that's going to find that one logo for me. So once I start finding things, that's going to let me use, again, these jQuery shortcuts. So I can just hide that logo, like that. There we go, it's gone. If I want to show it again, show. Now, in the end, when you create your course and you publish it and you put it online and everything, you're not going to be using this console for that. You're using the console now so that you can start figuring out, well, where is that element? What's it named? How am I going to access it so that I can use JavaScript to change it? on there. So we're fiddling around in here now, but the idea is we're going to take what we learn here and put it into our course into a JavaScript trigger. Just wanted to remind you of that. So that's showing and hiding things on there, using the console a little bit. One other thing I did want to show you in here is I have this silly little function right here where I can just type in here and update, and it will display it on there. So that's a little bit of JavaScript that's inside there. One thing I wanted to show is how if I go to my sources panel and I look at that page in my sources, I can come down and you can actually set breakpoints and edit some stuff in here too. So if I set a breakpoint on there, then what that means, it's telling Chrome, hey, when you get to this part of the code, I want you to stop. Don't do anything more, and let me take a look and see what's going on inside there. So if I try to run that again, I'm just going to put stop in there. When I hit update, we can see that it paused my code in the debugger, and when I come look, I can see it's highlighted, showing me where it's paused. And Chrome has done this cool thing where it's showing me the values that are currently set in there. And if I just hover over that, I can see, oh, the value of that is stop. And when I'm ready to move on, I can just hit play, and it will move on to the next thing. Now, in this one, I don't really have anything else because it's a really simple example on there. So let me jump over to the, let's start looking at Storyline here. So this is our Storyline course, and we're going to jump in there and start finding elements on this course and changing them. Real quick though, I think I had another poll. I was just curious what browser people are using these days.
Sure, I'll launch that one right here. While people are voting on here, we've had a few questions come in that you might be able to answer.
Sure.
One here is, as we get browser development tool training from various sources, are the rules and instructions pretty similar across browsers?
Yes. Yeah, so the Internet Explorer and Firefox and stuff, when you're typing in those commands and stuff, they all pretty much work the same. Some have more advantages than other. Edge actually has a pretty good developer panel in it these days. That's Microsoft's replacement for Internet Explorer.
Okay, another question here. This person says, I have the impression that Storyline has more barriers to see JavaScript changes in the course real time compared with Lectora. Is that accurate?
Yes, I would say so. Storyline is one of the hardest, in my opinion, to get in there and tinker with for a couple of reasons. One, Captivate, Lectora, and them, they have published APIs. That's a application program interface. So they've built in and documented methods for developers like us to get in there and, like, for instance, figure out what slide number are you on, to change slides and stuff via JavaScript. They have that built in. None of the articulate products have that built in. I think the old Presenter had one. Storyline has a very simple API. All it lets you do really is to get and set your Storyline variables inside of it there. And then the other thing is the new version of Storyline uses React to build the player on there, and that means that everything gets wrapped inside a React application. I won't get into what React is right now, but it's like a development library and framework for JavaScript and HTML. It's very dynamic. But everything's built inside of that React app, and so it's very hard to get JavaScript outside the application to talk to the JavaScript inside the application. So there's a lot of barriers to using JavaScript in HTML Storyline. So one of the first oddities that you'll find when you start working with a course, and pretty much all the courses do this, is the course is going to catch all the keyboard inputs. So that, they're using that for stuff in there, like you can hit enter on a button, that type thing. So they want to catch all the keyboards. So when I hit F12, it's not doing anything for me because the Storyline has told the browser, hey, ignore all the keyboard presses. I want to listen to them. So that's our first little barrier there. Now I always get around it. If I click on the address bar, that takes the focus off the course, and I can hit F12 and it pops right open. But as we said, you could also open this by using the little menu and going to Tools, Developer Tools. So that's one of the first things you'll discover when you try to open the developer console on a course. So now we have it open. Let's start taking a look at some of the things in our course here. So we can, as we said, start mousing over these elements. Now you'll see it's not really highlighting a lot right now. That's just because everything's collapsed inside there. I could start opening these elements up and individually selecting them in there. But I find the easiest way to start hunting for something is to use the little selector item. And if I come over, I can grab that, and I'll jump right to it in here, and it shows me what it is. It's a heading 1, and it has the classes in there. It has a React ID, which is meaningless to us because that ID is going to get changed each time you publish and load your course and everything. So unfortunately, we can't really use that to get this. Now, one thing of note is they don't have consistent IDs for a lot of stuff in Storyline, so you have to get a little creative to find things sometimes using jQuery, and I'll show you some of those techniques. They do have pretty consistent classes. So for instance, if I grab this button over here, that's the tabs trigger there. So all these buttons along the top there are using that tabs trigger class. So if I select that in jQuery in the console, it's going to tell me, oh, hey, there's 3 of those things. And I can see, as I mouse over it in the console here, it'll actually highlight it in the course for me to show me where those 3 items are. And then I can expand each one to get all kinds of information about them. If you wanted to get the button that has the notes on it, there's a couple of different ways to do that. Well, the easiest way really is if I dig in there and find that one. So let's see, that's the notes one is what I'm looking for. Here we go. I can see that they did put an ID for that. So it's a button, it has a class and a couple of classes, and it has an ID on there. So if I want to get just that particular button, oops, I'm trying to copy and paste to save you the pain of watching me type. So if I want to get that one, that'll grab just that one button for me on there. My console's starting to get a little full here, so I'm just going to clear it using the little clear console button. That way we have more room to play, and I can pull this up higher if I want. Or we could go right to the console, but I want to be able to see these elements along the top as I'm doing it. So now that we know how to access that particular button there, well, what can we do with that information? What if on this particular slide, when the slide loads, we want to focus the learner's attention on the notes? So we could just tell jQuery, hey, go find that button by its ID and click it. And looky there. We just clicked that button in the Notes panel, opened up. We did that with just a very simple line of jQuery there. Pretty cool stuff, I think. So another thing that we could do here is maybe on a particular slide, we don't want them messing around in the menu. We do want them to see the notes, but we don't want them to mess around in the menu there. So I can find that. Here, let me show you. So that's the menu button, but the menu itself, it's hard to select it, hard to select the whole menu, but if I select that one item, I can see here my little breadcrumb, and I can start traveling up it. And I can see there, oh, that's in the outline class there. So what I can say is everything that's in the outline, let's just hide that. There we go. And then on the next slide, or when they're done with the slide, we might want to show it. So by digging around in this, we're able to find the element, select the element, and then start making changes on it. We'll take that information and we'll be able to write a nice little JavaScript function to put inside our trigger in storyline in there. Is everybody back on? Is there questions?
Yeah, we've got a few questions here. Let me pull a few up here. Let me find one that's close to here. First of all, have you mentioned what version of Storyline you're referring to, or if these are principles that are universal to all of them?
That's a great question. This is focusing on Storyline 3 or 360, depending on, they're almost the same thing. I have used the same techniques for Storyline 1 and 2, but the problem then was that you had the Flash output. So if you create this awesome JavaScript to click the Notes button, you would have to try to find a way to write that same solution in Flash for people using with Flash. But with Storyline 3 and 360, you can publish just the HTML5 output, so that really lets us play and explore a lot more.
Okay, another question that came up is, let's see, how would you, this person is curious to see how you use the source code to hide or remove the Storyline player's skin, if that's possible.
Sure. Yeah, so we could get in here and we could find each element. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be just one element. I think you're going to end up having to find and hide several things. So let's see, we have that one, presentation, and then the presentation container. I'm trying to kind of climb up the ladder here in our elements. But so I don't think that you're going to be able to find just one, element and hide that. I think you're going to have to come in here and select each one kind of individually and hide those.
Okay, another question. When you edit code in the console, what is it that you're changing? Are you adjusting the actual elements in the published output, or just a copy of it?
So yeah, I'm just making temporary changes in here so that I can test my ideas and find things before I write the actual code and put it in the course or in the HTML.
Okay, and then one last question. Would you find the click action in the jQuery catalog?
Yes. Yep. If you come to, you could, like I said, you could use the jQuery documentation. As far as documentation goes, it's very good, but it's documentation, not really a learning tool. But if you check out the W3 schools, they have, let's see, there's stop. Well, that's under effects. They have tons of stuff in here that will show you how those work in there. All right. So let's start finding some other elements and playing with those. So for instance, let me come over here and we can grab our presentation title. Now remember, we could just write some stuff in CSS. So we could say here that we want to set the font size to 200% on that. So you see we changed that. Now, if we just use CSS, then what that means is when you publish your course, you're going to want to go find the CSS file for the course and add that CSS to that. Now, that has an advantage in that you don't have to write any JavaScript. You don't have to put JavaScript triggers on slides and stuff to get things done. The disadvantage is, one, you have to remember to do it every time after publishing to go edit that CSS. And then the other disadvantage is that it's going to affect throughout the whole course and everything. So if you're trying to do this only on one slide or something, then you're going to want to use it with the JavaScript. So to make that same change with the JavaScript, we would just do it like this, where we're going to use jQuery to find the presentation title. We're going to make a change to that title's CSS. That font size is going to be set to 200. Boom. So that changed that. Now, one thing that I find useful is your learners don't really need to know what course they're in. Usually they know what course they're in because they selected that from the LMS. It's also in the page title. I'm not sure why we're even displaying it on there. Then you have the slide title, which ends up actually taking up some room on your course. You could use this real estate on your course to display useful content instead of the slide title. So to me, it kind of makes sense to put the slide title up here instead of the course title. And so one way we can do that is we can use jQuery. Oops. We can use jQuery to grab that presentation title and change the text that's on the title. Boom. Now it says hello world there. So if you put a JavaScript trigger on the load of every page and set the text that way, then every page that title on the player would be getting updated with whatever text that you wanted on there, instead of just showing the course title at the top there. Let's find some other elements that we can play with on here. So we have the button at the bottom here, and we can see the CSS class for that is button, and it's a CS button. I'm not sure what CS stands for, but the good folks over at Shiglet have used it a lot throughout the course, the CS dash. Yeah. Everybody can put their best guess for what CS stands for in the chat. But we can find each one of those buttons, and actually let me go to the next slide so that we can, whoops, I have the thing selected. I just wanted to jump to another slide, so I have two buttons on there. So we can find that button in jQuery by looking for either the CS button if we want the whole button, or in this case, maybe we just want the text that's on the button. So in this case, the class of that is called simply text on there. So we can find every button with that class. And there's actually 5 buttons that have that class that are being displayed on the screen right now. And so we could pull that down and look at it. Now, I've done this before, so I know that a lot of those buttons are hidden somewhere. I don't know really for sure what they have on them or where they are. I just haven't taken the time to figure it out. But if you wanted to, you could change the, let's change the font color. Font color. No, I should have copied and pasted, so like I said, you wouldn't have to see me type so slow. Oops, and obviously I did something wrong there. Let's see. There we go. What did I do different? Text. Oh, because it's just color, not font color. Silly me. All right. So you can see that that changed the font color there. Now, another cool thing in this panel is maybe we don't like that particular color of red. You can actually just, in the developer tools, click on that color and choose whatever color you wanted to from it. Now I'll hit enter. Oops. And I'll hit enter. Why isn't it changing? What did I do? There's also an eyedropper if you want to select a color that way as well. And come over and say, oh, maybe I want it to be the same color as that. But the question is, why isn't it keeping that color? No, that's a question for another day, I guess. So let's jump in. So that was nice that we could change the color of the button. I have a blog post with some examples of really cool things that you can do with that next button. So if you, let's see, which one was that? I think that was the JavaScript tricks here for Storyline 360. So if you go over to eLearn Brothers site, you can pull up that article, and it shows lots of cool tricks that you can do with the buttons in Storyline Player there. So another one that I recently came across, kind of a cool idea, is Storyline allows you to choose per slide whether or not you want to display the seek bar along the bottom. And it does allow you to decide globally whether or not you want the learner to be able to use the seek bar. So there's two options for that. One is to show and hide it, which you can do on individual slides or the whole course. And the other one is to disable the interactivity of it. But what there isn't is an option to show it on all slides and pick and choose which slides you want it to be active on. So I had a case where just for one slide, I still wanted them to see the progress so that they would know how far they had left in the slide, but I didn't want them to touch the progress on there. So the first challenge is actually getting down in there and finding that. So it doesn't make much sense, but the element that's controlling that click action is an input element on there. And what they've done is they set that input to be the entire length of their, you can't see it, it's invisible, but it's there. And so it's of the type range on there. So again, if you look at this one, they didn't put a class on it, nor did they put an ID on there. So I'm going to have a really hard time grabbing that using jQuery, because normally you use jQuery to find things either by their tag, by their class, or by their ID. And I don't have any of those on here. So there are other ways to get things. They're just not quite as efficient. So on this one, what I did actually is I started looking for its parent. So I could see that this is a sibling. It's on the same level as that one. And this is the parent of both those two items on there. So let me clear this. So the first thing I wanted to do is just see if I could get that thing. And did I crash? Oh, hey. I think I crashed Sublime somehow. That's rare. You know why I crashed? Because we're doing a live presentation. Hey, it's back, I think. All right. Nope, it's not. Close it, and we'll try that again. All right, I'm back. So this is how I'm going to select it. So using jQuery, I can say, hey, get that parent div, and then this little greater than means find its child input. So find me every input tag that's inside of this div tag. If I do that, I can see, well, there's only one. So I've managed to find and get that particular one there. So now, there's a couple of ways that I could keep somebody from clicking on it, but I figured that the easiest way to keep somebody from clicking on it is just to hide the thing. And so now we can see that when I start to click on it, it doesn't move anymore. If I hit play, it still plays and shows, but I can't interact with it anymore on this slide. When I'm ready to let the learner interact with it again, I can simply just show it again, like that. And so now I can click on it again. All right, we're starting to run out of time, so I wanted to jump real quick over to some of the fancier things that I've done in here. So first let me show, I've added just a little bit of JavaScript to these two buttons on there. And that JavaScript, let me pull up a storyline real quick. So in storyline, wow, why is everything being painful? So in storyline, I've put this JavaScript inside this trigger. And as you can see, it's pretty ugly inside there. I wish they had a pretty JavaScript editor in there, but I'm sure that they have their focus on other stuff. So it's pretty ugly in there. So I do like to look at it either in Sublime or in the console here. So when you publish your course, that JavaScript gets put in what's called the user.js file. And if I come over here, I can open that in my console, and I can see, well, here's my scripts that are getting run in there. So that's kind of nice, because sometimes I'll do this, where in Storyline, I just put the comment there. That way I have access to it when I publish it, and I can start my tinkering around inside there. I can edit that user.js file and then save that, refresh the page, and play around with things from there. I don't have to keep republishing the course. Once I have it just the way I want, I'll take that JavaScript and go put it into the course, but while I'm working on stuff, I will just practice it that way. So what this one's doing is I grabbed the progress bar, the fill there, that's that white part, and I'm setting the transparency, opacity of it to the value of that input that we just hit. So that input, I can get the value of it, and we can see that right now it's at 1. If I move it over, down there, we can see it's at 0.197. So I can get the value of that. That tells me how far along I am in the slide there. I can take that value, and because it's a decimal like that, that's how opacity works in CSS as well. It's a value between 0 and 1, just like this is. So if I take all that information and I'm putting it in this interval that's going to run every 100th of a second there. So I'm going to hit start on that, and we can see immediately that faded out because right now it's at 0.19. As I play the slide, it's going to start getting brighter and brighter until when it gets to the end. There. And it's going to work like that on every slide now that I have that. If I want to turn it off, I do have this JavaScript here. And I just wanted to show that if I put that break there, we can see that when I hit stop, it'll break on that because that's there. And then we only have 5 minutes left. I know there's going to be some more questions, so I just wanted to show an example. This will be kind of a full example here. I'm going to turn that off. So because I have my user.js up in here, right now I set a click action on this, and this is a storyline variable. And so if I wanted to, I could say that when they click that, what I want it to do is run this. So I put JavaScript right into the user.js file in the console here. I'm going to hit save on that. It doesn't actually change the user.js file, the actual file. It just changes the file within the browser. Next time I hit refresh, that's going to be gone. Now when I click on this, we can see it ran that code and it changed the variable to James. Now, I've also created this really cool way to change images within the course itself. So for instance, that background image there, maybe I want to change that whole image like that. And just to show you again, that's just the background image on my master slide. That's nothing fancy added to it or anything. Just the background image on the slide there. I did the same thing with this profile picture on there, this fake little profile picture. It's just an image. I do have a click action on it, but that's all that's on there. It's just a regular old image. And so I can actually change that as well. So what I did is I created a function that goes out to this cool website called Random User, and it just generates random users for you. It's kind of fun for when you're testing code and stuff and you need a random user. So they have a cool JavaScript API. They show you right there how to use it and everything. So in this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say when they click this, I want to use jQuery's AJAX function to go load data from that website, and then I'm going to take that data and I'm going to push it back inside here. So now when I click that, we can see that even though that's just a regular old image inside of Storyline, I can actually change that image to anything I want just with one line of code. The actual code to make that thing work is just this one line there. And again, I had to find that thing like this. They do have an ID on these, by the way, on those images that are being published, but it changes a lot, so it's not a reliable way to do it. So the way I'm finding elements within the slide, because it is so hard since they're always changing these ID numbers and everything, is I'm actually leveraging the accessibility tag, because it will always show that consistently. Whatever you put in for the accessibility, it will always show that. It'll be included in there. So in my storyline course, for the accessibility, I called it profile pic. And then when I wanted to find that in here, I can actually hit Control F and I can start looking for it. Profile pic, there it is. So that div tag has the ARIA label of profile pic on it. So that allows me in my jQuery to say, hey, look for any element that has the ARIA label profile pic. Inside that element, because again, that's not the image itself we want to change, we want to dig around inside of it and find the image tag. And then we're changing the image source in that tag. All right, well, that's it. I think I have 1 minute left, and I'm sure there's questions.
Yes, we've got quite a few questions, but we are out of time. So what we'll do is I'll take 1 or 2 more questions, and then what I'll do, James, is I'm going to send you these questions, and if you can answer them in text form, and we'll publish them with the webinar recap on Monday. So you guys can check back at elearningbrothers.com and go to our blog, and you'll find answers to a lot of these questions along with the recording of the blog itself. So one of the questions that you can answer now: will the JavaScript changes to published files invalidate each time the course is republished? And is your process sustainable both in the current version and in the future major minor releases of the software?
Like I said, I like to play around and figure things out here, and then I go put them into a JavaScript trigger in Storyline. If you put the JavaScript directly in the user.js or directly into the HTML files or something there, then it's going to get overwritten the next time you publish the course. So you either need to keep a copy of it somewhere where it won't get overwritten, or put it inside the course itself. Most of the JavaScript stuff keeps working for a long time, as far as versions go, but the Storyline 3.360 is a major change from 2, so none of the solutions for 2 work in 3, so it's always kind of up to the good folks over at Ticklet whether or not it's going to work in the next version. They don't support any of this, by the way, so if you ask them a question about it, they're going to say nope.
Okay, and then the last question that we'll take here is, do you believe Storyline is the best authoring tool for SCORM compliant HTML5?
That's a huge debate there. I think it has wonderful HTML5 output, very robust and stable, like I said, but it's not truly responsive, and a lot of clients are looking for responsive these days. So there's advantages and disadvantages to each of the tools.
Like I said, there's a load of questions here. We want to get to as many of them as we can, so we're just going to go ahead and end the webinar, and we'll get these questions answered in the webinar recap. Like I said, check it back at elearningbrothers.com and come to our blog. Check that out next week. Let me take the screen back over here and put this information up for you guys to see it. Hopefully all of this made sense and you didn't miss anything, but just in case you did, you can call us or email us. That's why we put this information on the screen. We want to have one-on-one conversations with you. We want to answer your questions. Reach out to eLearning Brothers at our website, elearningbrothers.com, or email or call us directly, and we'll be happy to speak with you. I will be sending out an email to all of you in the next few hours. It'll include a copy of this webinar, as well as our contact information and a lot of links to the different sites and places that James mentioned in this webinar. So be looking for that. Thank you, James, for this awesome webinar. We had a lot of great information, lots of questions. So we're going to have to continue this conversation later. But thanks for joining us, and we'll see all of you guys next time.